The first sign was silence. Not the ordinary silence of a world settling into night, but a silence that felt alive, pressing down on the skin, making every breath heavy with dread. The Vox had gone dead 2 nights earlier. The astropaths had screamed themselves hoarse before falling into catatonia, and the chaplain's voice trembled during the morning prayers. We all knew something was coming, though none of us dared say it aloud. Rumors spread like wildfire. Among the men, rumors of black-armored giants seen on the horizon of whole villages, emptied in a single night of screams that echoed without a source. When I tried to sleep, I heard them too, faint whispers that slid into my skull like knives, promising glory, damnation, or both. But when dawn rose, I forced myself to stand at attention with the others, clutching my lasgun, pretending that discipline could hold back the tide that we all felt approaching. The first attack came without warning. A patrol of 20 men sent out to scout the edge of the forest never returned. We found their remains the next morning, or rather, what was left of them. Their armor was shredded, their bodies carved with symbols none of us recognized, runes that burned the eyes if you stared too long. One man had been pinned to a tree with a massive blade still through his chest. The sergeant made the sign of the Aquila, muttering a prayer, but I saw the fear in his eyes. This was no ordinary enemy. These were not rebels, nor Xenos raiders. Deep inside, we knew who hunted us, though we clung desperately to denial. Chaos Space, Marinesta, traitors, the damned, the fallen demigods of mankind. And they had come for us. That night, the sky burned. A red glow spread across the horizon, painting the clouds in blood. The air stank of ozone and rot, a foul mix that made the lungs ache. We huddled in our trench line, waiting, praying, straining to hear footsteps. What came instead was laughter. It wasn't human, not really. It carried across the plains, high and low, mocking and cruel, like an entire choir of demons had found joy in our terror. The new recruits cried openly, while the veterans sat in grim silence. Then the bombardment began. Not artillery, but bolter fire thunderous, cracking bursts that ripped men apart as if they were nothing but paper. The first shell hit the trench 2 meters from me, and the man beside me was gone, simply gone, his body reduced to nothing but red mist and broken bone. The second shell tore through 3 men at once. We veered back, of course, lasgun beams flashing in the dark, but it was useless. The shadows moved with impossible speed, hulking shapes in spiked armor, glowing eyes staring through the smoke. I remember the first time I saw one clearly. He stepped through the haze of fire like a nightmare given flesh. 8 feet tall, armor black as midnight, etched with marks that twisted the gaze. His helmet was fashioned into a skull, its eyes glowing with unnatural light. In his hands was a bolter the size of a child, spitting death with every pull of the trigger. Around his waist hung chains, and on those chains dangled skulls, some human, some not, all grinning in silent mockery. He did not run, he did not rush, he simply walked forward, each step ringing against the ground like a drumbeat of doom. We fired at him with everything we had, lasguns, grenades, even a heavy stubber, but it was like trying to stop a tank with pebbles. The bolts bounced from his armor, sparks flying, and he did not even flinch. And then he raised his weapon and half the squad was gone in a heartbeat. We broke. We ran. Discipline. Training. All of it shattered in an instant. The trench line fell apart. Men screaming, stumbling, scrambling into the night. I ran too, because there was no choice. Stay, and you were already dead. As we fled into the woods, I could hear them following, not rushing, not panting with exertion like men, but walking. Always walking, confident in the inevitability of their kill. The forest that had once felt like protection now became a cage, every snapping branch a warning, every shadow a threat. We tried to regroup, whispering hurried plans, but each time we stopped, another man vanished. One moment, he would be with us. The next, there would be a sickening crunch, a strangled cry, and silence. I never saw them take anyone. They didn't need to be seen. They were everywhere and nowhere all at once. The days blurred into a nightmare. We wandered through ruined villages where blood painted the walls and strange sigils glowed faintly in the dark. Civilians who had once greeted us with bread and prayer now sat hollow-eyed, rocking back and forth, muttering words that made no sense. Some begged us to kill them. Some laughed until blood spilled from their mouths. We stopped answering their pleas, because looking at them too long felt like staring into the abyss. Once, we found a group of children hiding in a cellar. We thought we had saved them, but when we opened the hatch, their eyes shone with an eerie light, and they spoke in unison. Their ray light. Then they screamed until their throats tore, and something unseen dragged them into the dark before we could even react. Sleep was impossible. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw the armored giants with faces of iron and hunger, reaching out for me. Sometimes I woke to find claw marks in the dirt around my bedding. Sometimes I woke to find another soldier missing. Hunger gnawed at us, thirst weakened us, and despair settled in like a sickness. Our prayers grew hollow. Even the chaplain who marched with us began to falter, his sermons cracking, his eyes hollow. One night, he simply walked away into the trees, whispering that the emperor had abandoned us. We never saw him again, though in the distance, we heard his screams echoing for hours. The worst were the nights when the stars vanished, not behind clouds, but truly gone, swallowed by a void that stretched endlessly above us. That was when the whispers grew louder, slithering into our minds, urging us to surrender, to embrace, to give in. Some of the men did. I watched them lay down their weapons, step into the dark, and bow before the hunters. For a moment, the traitors spared them, towering over them like gods. Then the slaughter began. Blood sprayed, bones cracked, and their screams echoed until silence claimed them. The Chaos Marines did not want servants. They wanted prey, and we were the perfect prey week, afraid, desperate to cling to hope even as it slipped through our fingers. I do not know how many days passed. Time lost meaning. The world became an endless cycle of running, hiding, and dying. My squad was gone, every one of them. Some killed, some taken, some simply vanished. I alone remained, though I knew my turn was coming. I could hear them at night, their heavy steps circling closer, their voices like grinding stone. Once, I felt a hand brush my shoulder in the dark, heavy as steel, but when I turned, nothing was there. They were playing with me, drawing out the fear, savoring it. That was their way. To kill a man was simple, to break him, to tear apart his soul before his body, that was their art. When at last I stumbled into the ruins of the city, I thought perhaps I had escaped. The streets were empty, buildings crumbled, silence thick. I found water, stale but drinkable, and for the first time in days, I let myself hope. That was my mistake. As I lifted the cup to my lips, I heard it the sound of metal scraping stone, slow and deliberate. I turned, and there he was, a Chaos Space Marine, his armor crimson and bronze, his helm shaped into a snarling demon's face. His eyes glowed like twin furnaces, and in his hand he carried a chain axe slick with blood. He looked at me, not with rage or fury, but with amusement. I ran, of course. What else could I do? My legs pumped, my lungs burned, but his steps followed, steady and unhurried, always behind me. I could not outrun him. No one could, and so I run still, through streets that twist and crumble, through shadows that whisper my name, through a world that has already been claimed. I run, though I know the truth, that there is no escape. That the hunt will end only one way. Perhaps tonight, perhaps tomorrow, perhaps in a week, but it will end. When you are hunted by Chaos Space Marines, there is no survival, no salvation, no mercy. There is only the inevitable, and the long, slow descent into fear before the final blow falls. And as I stumble, breathless, broken, with the sound of heavy steps behind me and the laughter of gods in my ears, I understand at last. I was never a soldier. I was never a fighter. I was only prey. And now, the hunters have come to claim me.